Hey everybody, this is Erman Brody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are literally a week and a half away from elections, both not just nationwide, but also state and local level. So today we have with us Aja Smith, a fellow Californian. What I like to do with my platform is I like to give folks their time and their opportunity to freely speak their minds, to just talk about their platform without any interruptions, without anybody demonizing them. I'm all about civil discourse, regardless of if I agree with them or not, whether you agree with them or not. I just want to give people the opportunity because I feel like we live in a time that's very divisive. And just because you have an R next to your name doesn't mean you're racist, right? So I'm pretty sure, I'm speaking to Aja Smith right here. I'm pretty sure you're not racist, Aja, right?
No.
So we have Aja Smith, who is running for Congress in California's 41st district. If elected, Aja would become the first African-American female Republican to serve in Congress from California. That's really cool. So
Yes.
welcome, Aja.
Well, thank you for having me on. You know, it's been this is my second time running. So this time around, we're pushing it. We're really getting a lot of people, even from the Democrat side and the independent side, who are coming over, say, we want to help you out. We're going to vote for you. So this is a really exciting time, you know, and I tell everybody, we all, you know, we were discussing earlier, you know, we do have some things in common. We may not agree when it comes to Second Amendment rights and different other issues, like I am pro-life. I may meet somebody who's pro-choice, but we can find a middle ground and even talk about the issues. I don't know about you, but I was born and raised here in California. So I've seen this whole entire state this is the worst time I've ever seen it, especially with the homeless crisis. And I tell people we have things in common, but we need to learn how to talk to each other.
Right.
We can agree to disagree, but we need to know how to have a good common sense dialogue without calling each other racists and Nazis and everything else. I mean, some people are very hard to talk to and you're just like, okay, I'm not going to waste my breath. But some people you can start having a food for thought thinking and saying, this is why I am a Republican. This is why I am a conservative. Or this is why I am a Democrat, but my parents were probably JFK Democrats. My grandmother was actually a Kennedy Democrat, and then she joined the Republican Party later on when Ronald Reagan became president. My mother was a Reagan Democrat supporter when Ronald Reagan was our governor, and she became a Republican when he became president. So conservative values has always been instilled in me for a very long time, but it was never discussed, well, we're Republican and they're Democrats. It was pretty much work hard, go to school, make a good living, do well for yourself, and push for the stars. And that's one thing that I was taught by my grandmother, especially. Today is her year anniversary of her death. She died last year today of terminal cancer. She was a mental health nurse. She served in the Korean War. That's where she met my grandfather. They were both in the Air Force at Lackland and got married and had my mother and my uncle. So my grandfather served at Army Air Corps, and he went into the Air Force when we stood up. He served all three wars, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And he retired as the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, the highest enlisted rank. And learning from his life experiences, especially with growing up in Jim Crow and racism and segregation, and how he had to fight very hard too with those barriers as being an African-American man in the military. He still had to go through a lot. And my great uncle, who was a Tuskegee Airman, he had to endure a lot, but it never stopped them from achieving of what they wanted to do. Right. And that's where I am coming out. You know, when I first ran in 2018, a lot of my friends did not know I was a Republican until my announcement came out. And they said, what? You're I said, yeah.
They're like, wait a minute. Why is there an R next to him on the ballot? I thought it was going to be a D.
Yes. And it was funny because my local paper did a press release. Well, my first time I ran, my first consultant, and everybody came and said, you're running for Congress. And they said, you're a Republican? Yeah. And they said, we never knew because we never had those horrible conversations. Right. But, you know, we always agreed. You know, some of my Democrat friends where, you know, we're Christian, we prayed in the morning, we talked about great stuff and, you know, federal funding for the military because we were all serving together, and how to get the job done and working together and different issues. But they were so shocked. And some people were kind of like, oh, you're a Republican. But I said, you've known me for the past 10 years or 12 years. Why would you think anything different than me?
Right.
Or you know, think of me any different. And so a lot of people, I shocked a lot of people with that, especially some family members. And they're like, well, we love you, your family, good luck.
Yeah.
And so, and so, you know, this time, second time around, I'm running again, and more people saying, you know what, you're the most down to earth Republican we've ever met. One of my childhood friends, her family are Democrats, and her mother still lives in the city. And she posted, yeah, I voted for Joe Biden, but I'm voting for a longtime family friend, Aja Smith, because I want to see the first Black female Republican from California go to Washington, D.C. And that makes me feel good. And I think that really, you know, this journey has been very interesting in the last 3 years. And to how to message to constituents who, you know, see that R, but I tell people, don't see that R, just ask me questions.
Yeah, exactly.
And just, you know, you can have your feelings about different issues or different issues within the party, the history of the party, or even the president, but ask me questions. I've been involved in local city politics for the last 15 years, going on 17 years, going to city council meetings, right next to Democrats and everybody else who we, you know, when it comes to holding city council members accountable, transparency, fighting a good fight. And like I said, when I ran the first time, they were like, wow, you're a Republican. I'm like, yeah. So what difference does it make? Some of them refuse to talk to me anymore, but that's fine. They probably vote for me secretly.
They're like, we secretly love you still.
Yeah, we secretly love you, but we're not going to say it publicly.
Right.
But that's okay. And I think this is a time where especially younger people really need to start thinking about where we're going to head as a country.
Right.
You know, I'm a Generation X. And so growing up in the 80s, the 90s, the bad hairstyles, but we have great music.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Hey, at least got the music. I'm an 89 baby.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was right there. It's right there.
Yeah, you're kind of, well, I'm older than you, but you know, and I remember growing up, especially out here, it was a pleasant time. We rode our bikes down the street in the cul-de-sac. We played in the street. We didn't have a care in the world. We can go to the mall. I mean, using the payphone to call your mom or dad to come pick you up because you did miss the bus or you couldn't get a ride home. And I miss those days. And I see a lot of the younger people who just really don't know how it is and how I grew up, where technology didn't really influence us. It was life skills. It was going out there and learning about each other. And the people who I grew up with, of course, they didn't know I was a Republican or had conservative values because we actually talked to each other. And that's what I want to see with this election. Just because I have an R doesn't mean I'm a Nazi, I'm a fascist, or any of that. I'm none of that. I'm a veteran. I swore an oath in 2002 after 9/11. I joined the military to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, including your First Amendment. And I talked about that in another interview I had about your First Amendment right, free speech. But I don't agree with hate speech when you want to entice violence. But we can all have a freedom of speech. And that's why I did submit a complaint to AG Barr about the shadow banning, especially with conservatives and minority conservatives on the social media platforms.
A bunch of my friends have been shadow banned and even completely deleted without any warning. I've seen it firsthand.
And I've been shadow banned, I've been tagged, I've been warned. And it's to a point where you're calling us the fascists and you're calling us the Nazis, but your tactics are the same as, you know, what was going on in Germany. Your tactics are the same. You're trying to shut down our speech. You know, my dad was a liberal. He was a real liberal. He grew up in Berkeley. He grew up in Oakland. And It was during that time in the 60s where Berkeley, was the hub for that platform to go to college and speak, but nobody shot anybody down to speak. He said we gave everybody opportunity, whether we gave them, agreed with them or not. And I said, wow, at this, my dad's passed away, but we talked about this even before I ran for Congress. And I said, I noticed that if you have an opinion, you get shot down, you get yelled at, you get harassed, you get doxxed, you get everything else. And he said, and he told me it was wrong. He said, I didn't grow up that way. He said, yeah, we did protest, we may disagreed, but we allowed everybody to speak. And as I do pray I get elected and go to Congress and start talking about these issues, our constitutional rights. First Amendment right, along with your Second Amendment and all the other great things we have in our Constitution, especially the right to worship. Here in California, the governor has closed churches. And to me, that's wrong. Look what's going on in New York with Governor Cuomo, who really upset at the Jewish community. And I see a lot of people are waking up, especially in New York and California. And I wouldn't be shocked, but I would be very pleased if both of our states go light blue and for people to wake up.
Yeah.
I would really like to see that, because at some point in time, you have to say, okay, the buck stops. You're putting all these constraints on us. You're telling us we can't worship, we can't gather, we can't do this. And I understand the issues with COVID, but now you're trying to tell us how many people we can have at our house. That's really infringing. And we need to take good precautions. And then you're telling us what we can and cannot say on the internet. And I have a lot of issues with that. And I want to tell that to the younger generation who are not Republican, to really start thinking about that, whether you like what I have to say or not. But I will always protect your freedom of speech, and I would like for you to respect mine.
That's true, because the freedom of speech includes your opposition being able to basically talk crap about you. Yeah. It's freedom both ways. But freedom of speech is both ways.
It's freedom in both ways, and peaceful protests. Of course, not rioting and violence and everybody's attacking each other. And we saw what happened in Portland and Seattle and Wisconsin and some parts here in California too. But I grew up when the Rodney King riots were happening. So I saw a lot of that.
Was it 52 people died, I think? 52, 54? Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember when it happened, as clear as day. I was a little girl, but I remember watching it on TV. And I had relatives that still lived in Carson and even Compton. My cousin lived in Compton, and he was like, I can't leave my house. We're scared, because they live right there in the middle. And so, we all express in different ways, but now you have the tech giants who are really controlling of how we think and how we communicate with each other. Where I remember when Facebook first started, we had MySpace. It was okay. And so
what's MySpace? No, I'm kidding.
It was MySpace. I remember AOL chat. Okay, that's how old I am.
I was on AIM. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh wow.
Way back, yeah.
Way back.
My name had like the characters that were like lowercase, uppercase, lowercase numbers, and you thought was cool.
Yeah, thought, you really thought you were doing something there. Oh yeah, I remember those days. Actually, I kind of miss them, but
simpler times.
Yes. And now we have this great technology now with Zoom and live feeds, and you have Instagram. Right. Your hair looks great. Stop messing with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, stop
got
messing
a fresh cut the other day, so I'm trying to maintain it for this interview, Aja.
No, you look great.
Interview. Thank you.
No, I like it. Don't mess with it.
Okay, no more touching.
No more touching.
So,
all right.
I want to dive into your platform, because I'm looking at your website. I see some stuff here that's I would love to talk about. Your platform, national defense, to protect independent contractors. I know there's a what is it, Prop 20 something, Prop 21, 22?
Prop 22, AB 5, Assembly Bill 5, and it became a federal bill called the PRO Act, in which Mark Turcano voted for. And I tell everybody, I started linking up in different Facebook groups where I met people, Democrat, Republican, and in between, or I just don't vote. And I said, hey, I'm Aja Smith, and I'm running for Congress, and I support your stance on maintaining being a freelancer, independent contractor. They're like, wow, that's great, you know. And when we start seeing bills go up to the House of Representatives, people have to keep in mind that California has the most elected congressional members.
Right.
So all these bills in California are headed up to Washington, D.C. And I'm telling even my own party how big it is to try to flip some of these seats in here in California to stop this. Mark Takano's one of them. I mean, he's not a Maxine Waters. He's not a AOC, even though I joke and call him the fifth member of the squad. He's not a loudmouth, always on Fox and making a ruckus, but he does play a key role into a lot of this because he's the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee. He's never served in the military. His staff has connection with the Ukraine scandal, where his chief of staff from DC went with Adam Schiff's staff 2 weeks before the whistleblower to the Ukraine. So I wrote an op-ed about it, and my local paper would not publish it. So we published it different ways through the California Globe and Flash Report, and I can send you that too.
Ooh, juicy. You're not gonna get me. You're not gonna get me shot for this, right?
No.
I'm gonna. No. Okay. No. Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm safe.
You're safe.
I'm totally kidding, by the way. But no, you know what I mean. Wink, wink, cough, cough.
Yes.
Okay.
But, you know, and I look at those bills, and that's what I do. I present my platform in a bipartisan fashion when it comes to helping the independent contractors and making sure that the PRO Act does not become a federal law, to try to get that bill out of Congress, to help the California residents to appeal AB 5 and pushing yes on 22. And I said, we have something in common here, because I have friends who were independent contractors and journalists. They were so scared, and a lot of them were hurting. They said, you know what, I can't even do my profession. And it started out with the Uber and Lyft, but then expanded with interpreters and every other profession, even down to people who do hair. It was like, really? These are people's livelihoods. Don't knock somebody's hustle. It's like, and so to me, and especially in California, because we have a high immigrant rate, and a lot of them depend on those jobs. And I said, you know, a lot of them said, you know, if this happens, I won't be able to work. I'm scared. I like what I do in my own time, my own hours, and how I want to work, and not have a union tell me what I need to do. A lot. And I met Uber drivers here, and they said, we don't like that bill, but we're too scared to say something. So we're just going to quietly vote yes on 22.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for filling me in on that. I was looking at it, and I'm like going, what is this really about? So thanks for breaking it down for me. What else we got? We have, of course, homelessness you want to tackle, veterans, tax reform and economy, community relations, a bunch of stuff. So let's talk about homelessness because it has been a central, I guess you can say, topic or issue that has been among Republicans in 2020 when it comes to these big cities: LA, Baltimore, New York, Chicago. I can go on, but in specific LA, if we can talk about homelessness and the issue with what's going on in the county.
Oh, I mean, like I said, I was born and raised in California, and I remember, you know, as a young 20-something-year-old going down to LA, me and my friends, and you know, living it up, partying and having fun and going shopping. There was a section called Skid Row. We all knew where the homeless were. Yeah. I was in LA the last time, well, actually the first time in so many years in downtown LA. It was for the first Black City event with Candace Owens. And as soon as we got off the freeway, there's all the homeless tents. I said, oh my God. You know, I see it on the internet, and I said, okay. And I said, boy, it's really gotten worse. I'm stepping over feces. I'm stepping over trash. It smelled so badly.
The needles, right?
And it was, I could not believe my eyes, because I haven't been to downtown in so long. And even when I went to, my mother treated me to go see a play at the Pantages, it wasn't even that bad. But we drove by there, and I said, my God, what happened to Los Angeles? This was the the party spot, the spot where you want to go and hang out and take pictures and see the Walk of Fame. And it was the Walk of Shame. And it was embarrassing. And I cried. And I said, this is not the California that I grew up in, or even my mother. And I showed her some of the pictures. She said, I can't even believe it. Because she said, maybe we should take a trip. And I said, oh, no, no, you couldn't get me to go back. So I started to see more of an influx of the homelessness coming to my district, where a lot of it is mental illness, and a lot of it drugs. And my grandmother, who was a mental health nurse, we used to talk about these issues. And one thing, and I'll admit, she said one thing she didn't like about Reagan was how everything changed with the mental health facilities. But she said we need to focus on the mental health. And that's what I want to do. I started to come out and tell the story. My dad ended up dying homeless. He wasn't mental, but he just couldn't find a place to live. So he lived in his car, and he had congestive heart failure, and he had a massive heart attack in his car. So when it comes to homeless, it touches me a little bit differently. And I have more of a compassion for those who may not have mental illness or drug problem, but just cannot find a place to live that they can afford, or have to be on a wait list. Those people, we should provide a faster pathway for them to get in a good, decent apartment, help them go get a better job in the skills that they need. And then you have those who need drug treatment and mental health. And that's where my opponent feels this is not a federal issue. And it is a federal issue. It's growing so fast, and especially with mental health and drugs. We have an opioid crisis as well. We have a sex trafficking issue as well. And some of those people are probably sex trafficked. You have kids out there probably sex trafficked, and they're homeless. And we need to start solving those problems and working with a good relationship, the federal, the state, and the local level, and start coming together instead of saying, well, that's that, and that's that. No, we need to finally come together and say, we're going to have to solve this, or start the process to get this going. It won't happen overnight, but at least to get federal money coming down into the district, and not only my district, but even the state, to start saying, maybe we need to build some mental health facilities and drug rehab facilities to start getting people cleaned up. Some who are not too far gone, to start helping them to reacclimate to society and get good drug treatment programs. And also those who are too far gone mentally, to at least they can have a safe place to stay. I'm not talking about an Arkham. I know somebody tried to accuse me of having an Arkham type of facility. And I said, no, I would never do that. But to have a nice, comfortable place where somebody is monitored with the great staff. We don't have that many mental health facilities. Actually, I think we only have 2 or 3 in my district, or main one. And I'm seeing, I'm driving downtown Riverside, and I'm seeing people who are half clothed, talking to themselves, yelling at the traffic. And I said, my grandmother used to have a saying, that's somebody's child. Yeah. And now I'm saying that too. And to me, it's inhumane as well for somebody to be out in the street, no shoes, no clothes. They don't have anything to eat. They have so many things wrong with them that you can see, where you don't want something to happen to them, or for them to be in danger for themselves or others. But we're such a reactive society instead of being proactive. Okay. And I want to be proactive, so that won't start and that person gets arrested, then they go to jail, and not that whole entire process. But be able to have some, a good facility. So say, you know what, let's try to get them in here. Let's try to talk to them. We have to do it in a way by talking to different medical health professionals, how we can do it so we're not snatching people off the streets. No, we don't want to do that, but to come up with a better solution to get them off the street, and so they can be safe, at least get some good meals, a hot shower, a bed to sleep in, and start getting the medical treatment that they need.
Amazing, amazing. Now, I want to shift gears just a tiny bit, and hopefully I'm not going to be controversial here, but I mean, I think I think it's worth talking about. So, we're in a year that is very racially driven, right? A lot of the things we talk about nowadays are racially driven, and I'm brown, you're brown, or you're black rather. Are you half?
Yeah. No, actually, I'm not. People think I am, and
I
I
thought
said
you
no,
were.
I'm not. Both my parents are, my grandparents, my great grandparents. This is how I came out. I can't help it.
As mentioned, if you were elected, you would be the first African American Republican woman in Congress from California. So,
Right.
people, your colleagues or your friends on the other side of the aisle, they may go, well, for us to be heard, for our voices to be heard, we have to, set fires. We have to, loot. You know what I'm getting at, right? You have to do certain things to make noise, right? For their voices to be heard, and when situations arise that have come about the last year, right? So from your perspective, what what do you have to say to them, or maybe there's alternative solutions? What we say to them that, I guess, from your perspective, is a different way to go about things.
Right.
What I'm trying to get. I'm trying to iterate it
Yeah.
without being
You,
controversial,
you,
but you know what I'm saying.
and this is where I go back to my upbringing with my mother, my grandmother, and even my grandfather. My mother, she's a baby boomer. My grandparents grew up in segregation, and the way they fought was getting involved. And yeah, they had to fight harder during those times because it was segregation. The march on Washington with Dr. King and different other things. And I tell people, I understand your frustration, and I do support your First Amendment right to go out and peacefully protest. And I can get behind a peaceful protest, whether if I agree with you or not. We had one in my city during George Floyd, what happened, and it was horrible what happened. And somebody said, hey, there's going to be a peaceful protest. So I speculated, and it was peaceful. People marched how they did it down the street, no issues, no incidences. And one of the best signs that one of the protesters had said, we need Jesus. I said, this is the best sign I have seen in the longest time. I understand people get frustrated and we burn our own, the banks and businesses. But at the same time, you have to remember, I don't know if you saw one of the videos where one of the ladies whose businesses got burned, she was a older Black lady, and she
I've seen
cried.
it.
She said, and that just broke my heart. She could probably never be able to rebuild versus like commercial, like the CVS and Walgreens. They have the money to do it, but she worked so hard to become an entrepreneur within her own community and hire within her own community, and to provide jobs and show that I'm a Black female business owner. I can make it. You can do it. You have to start thinking about that. I see horrible comments say, well, they can rebuild, but you don't know if they can rebuild. You don't know if even the banks will give them another loan, or even the insurance will pay out on it.
But she's like
And
80. She was like 80 plus, right? Like she was up
yes,
there.
yeah, she was up there. And it's to a point where I want to show an example that you may not agree with the party I'm in, but I'm here to talk to you of how you want to make change is to get involved in your local community, going to your city council meetings, start getting involved in the local elections when it comes to not voting every 4 years for president, but you have your state reps, you have your local reps, you have your DA, however your city is set up, even school board. You can have a voice by doing that, and even running yourself. If you want to make the change, you can go run yourself. That's why I decided to run the first time and also the second time, because I want to see change. And I started to listen to friends of mine, and other people said, we're tired of Mark Takano. And I said, well, I'm here to help make that change. And you can do things in a way where we're not being stereotyped on mainstream media. We're not being, we're told we're this way, or, oh my God, the Black community is so bad. No, we're not. We've come a long way in this country where, yes, there's an issue. We have riots. Like I said, I grew up watching the Rodney King riots, And then my grandmother, she remembers the Watts riot. She remembers when that happened, and different other instances in throughout the years in the course of history. But we can do it in a way where we come together, and especially with pastors, to really start saying there's a better way to express and to make change without destroying our local businesses. We talk about Black wealth. We talk about generational wealth. We talk about wealth in the Latino and Hispanic community, and Asian community, and every other community. But we need to start realizing if you're going to burn down this person's business and that person's business, guess what? They're probably not coming back, because they're not a big corporation like Walmart and CVS, where they can say, okay, we can rebuild and rehire. But sometimes they say, okay, we're out of here. You just lost those jobs. But if you're so frustrated with the system, then you need to get involved and start researching the laws, who you're voting for on the local level. The government closest to you controls you. And that's where we have to realize that we have to start going to the city council meetings. We have to keep on and hold accountable with the elected people that we elected them to do. If you don't like how your city is ran with the mayor and the city council members and even the city managers, you need to find a better way to say, you know what, we're going to vote you out. You don't have to burn down. You can probably do a peaceful protest. We've done them here in Moreno Valley a couple of times, where we were disgusted with the city council, and we held peaceful protests at City Hall, and we led recalls, and we wrote to the Department of Justice about our issues and everything else. And it's to get everybody involved, but we didn't riot. We didn't burn down any of those things. We just came together as all parties to work together to make a better community. And it is hard, it's frustrating. It's a lot of work to do. But I tell people, especially young people, that's how you're going to make the better change to do, because you don't want to burn down your city. You don't want to cause harm and cause havoc with other people, and people lose their lives and get beat up. And here comes, police officers issues and everything else. Just go and have part of my platform, community relations, is to really start sitting down with the police chief. And my police chief and the sheriff, they have an open door policy, going down to say, hey, mayor, hey, city council rep, can I sit down and talk to you and express my issues? And just open that door. It may not get done overnight, but they're there to listen. And if they're not listening, saying, hey, we're going to pack City Hall then. And you can do that. And I've seen it done. I've seen it done in Compton. I've seen it done here in Moreno Valley and different other areas. And that's what we need to do. We have a better way to do it. And that's where I like to be an example to do it. And if we want to make change, that's what we have to do.
Amen. Now, Aja, I'm going to do you a solid favor. You're a talker, obviously. You can go on, and I absolutely love hearing from you. I'm going to give you as much time as you want. It's just going to be you on the screen.
You want to do that?
Talk to your potential constituents, maybe undecided voters, maybe people who aren't voting for you, but they're at least listening to you and hearing what you're about. I'll give you time to freely speak to the camera, to them, without me. And I'll begin. Let me see here. Let's begin now.
Am I ready? Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Aja Smith. I am a veteran running for Congress here in the 41st Congressional District. I have been a resident here for over 30 years, since 1988. Me, my mother, and grandmother. I grew up in a single parent household, all three of us. And one thing my mother and my grandmother taught me was to work hard, fight for what is right, and to be whatever I want to be. I went to California Baptist University, have a business degree. I also served in the military. I joined right after 9/11, and I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed to Qatar Air Base in 2007, supporting Operation Enduring Freedom. During that time of my service at March Air Reserve Base, I noticed when Congressman Mark Takano became our congressman, and when it came to veteran issues, national defense issues, and even finally congressional issues to him, he was very non-responsive. And it wasn't just me, it was other people on base, where we did have Congressman Ken Calvert before, and he was more responsive for helping us civil service and reservists out. But going to the current congressman, even though he said he is for veterans, we noticed that he really didn't have an understanding when it came to veteran issues and also reserve issues. And I started digging into his voting record. And I started to see a pattern where he voted against a lot of national defense. He really didn't understand what the reserve program was. And so long story short, I decided to run against him in 2018 during midterm. And of course, I didn't make it, but at the same time, I said, you know what, I'm going to try again. My grandmother encouraged me to try again before she passed away. And today is her year anniversary of her death. And I just remember everything my grandmother taught me about working hard and really helping people and being a civil servant and a person who loves to help people. That's what I want to do. And plus, make our district known in Washington, D.C. DC doesn't know about anything about us because we have a congressman that doesn't really fight for us. He doesn't say we have one of the best districts in the state of California with the military installation and great people and the thriving places to live and beautiful places, beautiful scenery. And a lot of people just don't know about us. And I want them to know that we do exist here in the Inland Empire. And we need federal money. We need more innovation and technologies, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math for the younger people, trade, going back into the schools so we can bring those good paying jobs here, not only that, not just minimum wage jobs, but jobs that have benefits and careers. Not everybody is college bound, and I understand that. Not everybody can join the military, but at least to have a promising career for the people, for the younger generation that are before me and you. So I'm looking 20 years and 30 years ahead, becoming your representative to make sure we have a thriving workforce in a safe community. If you go down Mark Takano's voting record in 2017, he voted against 2 bills that protected children from online predators. I have an issue with that. And for somebody who claims to be a teacher for Congress, I feel that he's not protecting our children if he's voting against 2 big bipartisan bills that protected children from online predators. And those are on my Facebook page. They're going to be on my mailers. And also, he doesn't support our men and women who are police officers. And I know everybody has their differences of opinion when it comes to the police department, but I can tell you right now, our police department, our sheriff's department, they are the community. They are our brothers and sisters here, that they live here and they want a safe community. I was endorsed by Sheriff Chad Bianco, the Riverside Sheriff's Association, and the California Fraternal Order of Police. And I can tell you, they all support me and I support them. But we have a congressman that I don't think he even realizes what he's doing is really hurting our community when it comes to public safety. I've seen people post on Nextdoor and different social media sites. They said they're scared. Why is this happening? Why is crime going up? Well, we have a Congress member, Mark Takano, who wants to defund the police. He's right with that rhetoric. And we can't have that here, especially in this day and age when it comes to public safety. So I am a big public safety and military national defense advocate. But at the same time, I am an advocate for better education. I'm an advocate to bring more federal funding for better infrastructure into the district. And also, number one issue that I know that we have in common is the homeless issue here. And to start working on a better policy and plan to help our homeless here to get better medical treatment for mental illness and drugs. Yes, there are some people that just need the housing to stop that red tape with the long wait list. But at the same time, the people that I've seen around the district, they need mental health care and they need drug treatment. And that's why I am the one you should vote for. Our congressman doesn't think this is a federal issue, and it is. It is a national issue. And with the opioid crisis, it is a national issue. I don't know if anybody saw in the press enterprise about a week and a half ago or a week ago, where we had one of the biggest drug busts here in our district, and it was so embarrassing. And this is why we need to work together, regardless of how you feel, because I am a Republican, but I am a citizen here as well, along with you. I am your neighbor. I am your fellow person that you see at the gas station and has that great conversation when it comes to crime and homelessness and making a difference. And yes, I am running for Congress to be your voice, the voice for all the people here. We may disagree to agree, but we may have something better in common when it comes to public safety, better jobs, and the homelessness. So if those are part of your issues too, I say, please look at me. You can reach out to me. You can ask me questions. And I tell people it's not everything we're going to agree on, but I can guarantee you at least those top 3 things we do agree on. And I will go to work for you once elected on November 3rd in Washington, D.C., and let them know that we do exist and that we need the help. And we're going to get the help because I will want to represent everyone and make sure that we start moving forward as a wonderful district here in Southern California.
There you have it. Thank you so much, Aja. Before we go, where can folks find you on social media, on Twitter, Instagram? Which is funny because we had this conversation because you're conservative, you've been shadow banned. I couldn't follow you. I had trouble following you on Twitter because of your political platform, yes, unfortunately. But hopefully folks can actually follow
Please
you.
Do.
So,
Please
so
do.
where can folks find you?
You can go to my website, Aja, www.aja.smith4forcongress.com. Let me see. I had a pamphlet here. I hope everybody can see it here, right there. And there's our address, our phone number, and our email. And you can go ahead and message me. I know that everybody's voting with the mail-in votes, but if you haven't voted yet, and you're saying, you know what, I like what she has to say, and it comes from something different, and vote. Get out there and tell your friends and family, give me 5 votes. And that's how we can do it. Start talking to your neighbors, start talking to your family members. I'm reaching out to all parties here, especially independents and no party preference. You have to start asking your question. Do you want to see more crime and more homelessness here in the district? I'm your better alternative rather than Mark Takano.
Ooh, fighting words. No, it's politics.
It's politics.
Aja, thank you so much. Good luck on the 3rd, no matter
you.
what happens. Hopefully you keep on doing it. And
I will.
Hopefully we stay in touch,
Yeah, no, we will. You got my email, you got my number. We can do this again pretty soon.
Take care.